Disturbing new details about a triple homicide in the Tampa area. We now know the name of the man who admitted to killing his wife's family. Irma left a path of destruction across the Caribbean, killing about 24 people.
This facility behind me houses more than 1,100 children, illegal immigrants who stay here on average for about 57 days. Governor Rick Scott is technically in the lead, and that's enough for this crowd right here.
Breaking now, a very sad update to bring you. The Fort Myers police officer who was shot on the job, Officer Adam Jobbers Miller, has died.
To give you perspective, I'm standing next to the pier, and it's made its way all the way up to the front end where you get on. The test satellite could mean leaps and bounds when it comes to space exploration.
A man charged with shooting and killing a 7-year-old Texas girl says he didn't pull the trigger. And a lot of us don't know what we're going home to, so we're right there with you.
I've been seeing people trudging through this water, just trying to go on with their daily lives, but as you can imagine, that's very difficult. Well, this all happened in the heart of downtown Jacksonville, and an event that was meant to be fun for gamers who came here from across the country. Now it's the scene of yet another mass shooting in the country, as well as the state of Florida. Just 2 words have sent Miami into a frenzy. It's been a nonstop celebration here in Little Havana.
This is ahead of a meeting with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. How do you think that the U.S. allies will be watching closely now after this NATO summit?
The arsenic levels are still high. They're higher than the drinking standards. So that's concerning for people there. What's your response to that?
This is the Situation Room here behind me at the Lee County Emergency Operations Center, where people are working around the clock to keep you safe and plan as Hurricane Irma quickly approaches us.
All new on Wink, a story that will tug at your heartstrings. For one Bonita Springs man, it actually did. Jose Famania is spending Christmas with the mother of the woman who saved his life after losing her own 16 years ago. I sat down with them about what it cost to keep Jose alive.
Yes, it's so great to see.
Looking at these two, you'd think they're family. They refer to each other like that.
This young man is my son.
But for most of their lives, they were strangers who didn't even live in the same country. It took Jose Famania nearly dying and Charmaine Law losing her daughter to bring the two together. 16 years ago, at age 21, Jose was on his last leg at a Massachusetts hospital.
I thought I was going to die.
3 months in ICU after a serious stomach virus spread through his body, he got the news that doctors found a match for a heart transplant that would save his life.
It was a blessing that, and a miracle that, they found a blood type.
20-year-old Chardre Yawana died on New Year's Day after a crash near her home in Bermuda. Jose would get her heart hours later. But it took 11 years before Charmaine could bring herself to reach out to Jose.
It felt like I had known him for like 100 years.
That connection would only grow stronger when months later they decided to meet in person.
Their heart is still beating. Oh, it's a miracle.
A tragedy turned miracle, and now, for the first time, the pair is spending Christmas together at Jose's home in Bonita Springs.
I know they had a loss, but, if it wasn't through that, I wouldn't be alive.
It makes everything worthwhile. Him receiving the heart, him himself receiving that heart, it couldn't have happened to a better person.
What a beautiful story you just shared with us. How was it being in the room when they first met?
It was amazing. It wasn't their first time meeting. They had met before, but it was their first time spending Christmas together, and you could just feel the love in the air and this connection and bond that is really indescribable and something that they'll have for their whole lives. So it's amazing that such a tragedy can turn into a miracle and a lifelong friendship.
And they're staying how long together?
They're staying for basically the whole week together. They're going to spend Christmas together, and then she's going to fly back to Bermuda.
Perfect.
Testing on this site was delayed because of Hurricane Irma, but for many in this community, it's been delayed decades. They want to know what's going on here and if it's already affected them. Today was just the beginning.
I've really been sick since I was living there.
Laverne Bryant is just one of many people who lived in Dunbar in the 60s when the city dumped sludge in this site without anyone knowing.
I'm like, damn, excuse my language, I probably got sick from that. I don't know,
Decades later, a fence goes up and this testing begins.
Being that this was all lime sludge, it's been accepted as non-hazardous.
The groundwater these geologists are testing here today could tell us what may have ended up in this community's drinking water. Whether it's arsenic, aluminum, or anything harmful, these guys say they'll find it. Arsenic was discovered in the sludge in 2007 and in the groundwater in 2012.
Over the last 4 years, there hasn't been any exceedances. So there's been nothing above the drinking water standard for arsenic.
But did it end up in the community's well water many relied on years ago? And what about direct contact many of you had?
And the kids and everybody used to play over there.
They lived in this stuff 8 hours a day and played in it, and how would it affect them?
Geologist Scott McManus promises these tests will help provide answers.
There's going to be a lot of missing information from, you know, if we wanted to go back into the 70s, you know, and so the more data we get, the more we can crunch that and evaluate it and let the toxicologists do their exposure over time type of thing, scenarios.
Crews will be back out here tomorrow and Friday, but those results won't be available for another 3 weeks. From there, they will move on to the soil. In the meantime, though, many in this community are working on filing lawsuits for all the time that they didn't know about this and possible health effects from it. Count on Wink News to keep you updated every step of the way. I'm live in Fort Myers tonight. Britni McDonald, Wink News now. Just 2 words have sent Miami into a frenzy. It's been a nonstop celebration here in Little Havana. Many people gathered here, Cuban exiles or still have family in Cuba. And for them, this means freedom.
The streets of Little Havana outside Versailles restaurant in Miami were filled with people young and old, American and Cuban flags waving, signs held overhead, and anything that could make noise Saturday. The celebration started in the epicenter of Cuban exiles at the news of Fidel Castro's death at age 90.
They have nothing, and the illusion was to come here to the United States to try to live better.
The leader of Cuba for nearly half a century, who many in the crowd say forced them out of the country with his harsh dictatorship.
Very happy. I never forget it.
91-year-old Jose Julia Gracia stands alongside his son, CESAR.
It was all heartbreaking. This is just a day to just rejoice, and it is getting closer. It is getting closer to finally a change and to see something for my dad, living here longer than he's lived in Cuba, to see this, to find a lot of people have like grandparents and parents that had never got to this day, and my dad's here just to witness this, and it's huge for me and for him as well.
And the death of Castro like a freedom for Cuba, and everybody have that same feeling inside.
For William Schuss, Castro's death doesn't give him joy, but hope.
We're here is to celebrate a new era.
While the impact of Castro's death is still unknown, many are confident big changes are just ahead.
Are you hopeful that there will be a change now?
It's slowly coming.
I think it's coming. Cuba's going to be free sooner or later.
The celebration will continue, but we'll have to see in the coming days what Castro's death truly means for Cuba and the United States' relationship with the country. In Miami, Britni McDonald, Wink News now.